Firstly, it's truly an honor to speak in front of such distinguished guests and such a young audience. So the topic I'm going to talk about, Gen Z in the workplace, a boon or bane, right? This is something that is very personal to me, right? This is something that I see, feel every day. And I believe a lot of you young folks here would relate to it. So, a raise of hands, who here, as a Gen Z, feels they have been stereotyped? A raise of hands. Okay, perfect. I have the perfect audience for this now then. So, right, so Gen Z is something which there have been a lot of talk around what is Gen Z. There has been a lot of speculation about the perceptions around Gen Z. And the whole concept of this conversation today is to try to break them or to decipher them. So before I start, there's this quote I want to talk about, right? Strength lies in differences, not in similarities. Now, that is something that I would want all of you to remember during my conversation today, because this is very critical for us to understand how do we look at a generation that is not us, vice versa. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Raghav. I'm the co founder and CEO of Futurense, which is a talent tech organization that incubates talent from tier 2, tier 3 towns and deploys them with Fortune 500 companies. Now, just to break it down, to simplify, what does Futurense do? Futurense looks at those folks, those individuals who have the potential to grow in their careers, but does not have the money to upskill. We upskill them for free while we pay them salaries, right? So we're not charging people to upskill. We're actually upskilling people for free, and then we are deploying them with Fortune 500 companies that are looking to get the right talent. So what this does is, this creates a platform for the potential talent of this country to go to the right jobs without thinking about financial constraints. Now, as a Gen Z CEO, uh, my organization has more than 300 employees. So there's a question that I face on a daily basis, right? Who should I trust my organization with? Millennials or Gen Z? Both of them have their say. Both of them have their pros and cons. But as the CEO, this is a question that I have to answer to my inner self every day, because my answer changes every day. One day I feel that, you know what, Gen Z, so ambitious, so hungry, I will leave my company to them. But the next day I feel that, you know what, they are not that mature, there's no stability, they are losing, they are jumping ship, you never know what happens to them. So it's it's a question that I am also facing. And with this conversation, I am also trying to find an answer to that question. So now, the quote that I said, right? Strength lies in differences, not in similarities. I think differences should not be ridiculed, should not be looked down upon, they should be celebrated. Because in any organization that you see that has worked, that has grown, diversity of opinion was the key. You take any organization, you will always notice that at the top level, any organization that really scaled up, that really became big, that became a unicorn, had diversity at the leadership level. So now let's try to understand, right, why I am talking about this. There was a very particular instance that happened that made me think about this, right? It's not inspirational like the speakers before me. This is nothing like that. It's just a very small, candid interaction that I faced, right? So, an individual who is a CEO of a big company, he's around 37 years of age, he's a friend of mine. He came to me and he was like, Raghav, I'm looking to hire a content writer in my company. I was like, great. What is the compensation you will pay them? He was like, I'm willing to pay between 50,000 rupees to 60,000 rupees a month. I was like, great. I know just the person. I recommended a friend of mine who was 22 years of old, who's 22 years at that time, to that company. My friend went. He interviewed for 3 rounds. He did phenomenally well. The interviewer told him specifically that, you know what, You are the best candidate that has applied. Everything was great. Now, when my friend received the offer letter, the compensation that was given to him was 24,000 rupees a month. Now, this was surprising because I had told my friend that this company is willing to pay between 50 to 60,000 rupees a month. And my friend was also expecting that. So then I called this individual, this CEO, 37-year-old CEO, to ask him what happened. I was like, there's some mismatch. Is there a communication gap? And he told me, तुम Gen Z वालों का क्या है? 2 beer दो, free में भी काम कर लोगे. And that made me realize that, you know what? People are not taking Gen Z so seriously. Like there is more to them than just having beer or partying over the weekend, right? There's more to them. So the whole concept of this conversation today is to trying to understand Gen Z, the perceptions about them, their strengths, why are they like this, and how can we all collectively work together. So my definition of Gen Z, firstly, Gen Z is anyone that was born between 1997 and 2010. I hope all of you know that by now. And for me, Gen Z is an individual, is someone that has a clear sense of purpose and is at the same time more focused on shaping their present as opposed to previous generations that were more focused on shaping their future. Now, all of you here, right? You are currently living in the present. What would you prefer? A generation that is more focused on working towards your present, making it better right now, or a generation that is talking about a notional future? Both of them are important, but understand the difference, right? For me, Gen Z is more focused towards building the present. They cannot wait. They want everything to be done today. So let's talk about some perceptions people have about Gen Z. They are so self-centered. They haven't seen any hardships. They are not that mature. They are not that loyal. They expect too much. Their attention span is low. To be very honest, all of these perceptions are right. There's nothing wrong. That's the reality. But there is a reason why Gen Z is like this, right? So let's try to understand why is Gen Z like this. But before we understand, right, we have to think why. Like, why is Gen Z like this? What has made these perceptions about them somewhat true? So guys, understand one thing, right? This is the first generation that was digital first, that got access to internet at a very, very young age. They got access to information at an extremely, extremely young age. And in India particularly, Reliance Jio played a critical role. In 2016, when the Gen Z was in their mid-teens or early teens, or some of them were in their later teens, Jio came and gave free internet for 6 months. How many of you got free SIM cards during that time? Raise your hands. Amazing, right? Everyone got that. I also got that. And that was the time when everything changed. The country changed at that time. Because two things happened. The consumers of the internet increased dramatically, and the creators also increased dramatically. The people who were creating content also increased dramatically. So very honestly, Reliance Jio truly democratized internet in India and played a very big role in making Gen Z on who they are today. Just a fun fact, this was not a paid promotion for Jio. They have not paid me anything. They definitely can afford to pay me, but they have not. Just a disclaimer on that. So let's understand, right? How many of you know here that Elon Musk acquired Twitter? Raise your hands. Right? Isn't it obvious? Everyone should know about it. But now I would like to ask you one thing. Back in the day, when Steve Jobs acquired Pixar, how many young people do you think were talking about it? No one, right? I think even the elder people were not talking about it. Because information was not there. So what we need to understand is that this generation is talking about such mature topics that previous few generations, even in their old age, were not talking about. And that is primarily to do with social media. Social media, as you all can understand, has truly made communication very global. Be it what your cousin is doing in Ambala to what Mark Zuckerberg is doing in Palo Alto, you are seeing all of that. And the kind of touch points you are seeing, right? The kind of minute details you are seeing about individuals on social media, that is increasing the basic level of information you are consuming. And you will not even realize that the way you make judgments, the more variables you add to it, the more informed you are, and the more different your opinion is than the rest. So, be it a social political movement in the US, like a Black Lives Matter movement, or be it the Hindenburg report about Adani, where 100 billion of stock was evaporated in a week's time, all of us are talking about it. That is not normal. These are very different topics. But all of you, all of the young folks here, right, they know about it. And that is very unique. Earlier, people who were very focused on political science would know about what happened in the Black Lives Movement. Earlier, people who were too focused on finance, stock market, would know about what happened with the Adani stocks. But now, a person, irrespective whether they are studying biology, finance, English, math, they are talking about all of it. We are becoming very holistic individuals, a very holistic generation. OTT platforms, I would say, played an extremely big role in changing the cultural fabric of this generation. On one side, you are looking at $1,000 an hour paid lawyers in Manhattan through Harvey Specter on Netflix. And on one side, you are looking at a proper gunda from Eastern UP, be it a Kalin Bhaiya on Amazon Prime. What this is giving is for you to look at very distinct forms of cultures and then make your own culture out of it. So Gen Z is not sticking to one particular culture, lifestyle, society. It is consuming all kinds of societies, all kinds of cultures, and is creating a very unique personal culture. That culture will be very unique to you, to you, to you. There's no one culture for Gen Z. It is extremely personalized and it is extremely dependent upon the variables of information they have consumed. And as I just talked about, being a Gen Z, the amount of variables one is consuming beyond our understanding. Now, what this does is, this prospers curiosity. This makes you think more about it. Now, some of you would look at the Adani report, would look at what happened with the Adani stock. Now, some of you will start thinking, does this happen in other stocks also? You will start going on Yahoo Finance. You will start going on YouTube, where you will look at influencers who are talking about how Adani created his wealth. Some will defend him, some will say whatever he did was wrong. But what is happening is you are going deeper in the subject. And that curiosity in today's internet era has a lot of takers. The more curious you have, the more information you get. Now, you guys all look at reels, right? Raise of hands who all use reels in the morning. Look at reels. Now, guys, tell me one thing honestly. The kind of reels that you start seeing, don't you see more such similar reels? Yes? What is happening? Your knowledge about a particular topic is going deeper. Because the algorithms of all of these social medias, of YouTubes of the world, are built in giving you that dopamine hit, are built in using analytics to make sure you get more information about subjects that you have any inclination towards. So on YouTube, you can go. You can get ample information about how to build a lemonade stand, and you can get ample information about how to build a unicorn. But one thing is clear, irrespective of the audience, every particular individual, every particular audience has a taker. They have so much information to consume that they will form an opinion. And the best part about this, all of this information is that their depth of knowledge is increasing. They are going deeper in subjects and they are at a much better, much faster evolution to catch trends. Now, that is, I think, is one of the best parts about being a Gen Z. you are able to catch trends faster because you are building those trends, right? Like, let's talk about Instagram Reels. If you start liking a particular kind of Reels, your friends start seeing it, then their friends start seeing it, then it explodes, it becomes viral. So you, in a way, played a very big role in building that trend. So when we look at Gen Z, we definitely should realize that whatever knowledge they have, there is depth. And the depth that they have is also driven towards them creating new trends. Now, there's a biological reason why I'm talking about all of this, right? You would say that, you know what, internet every generation gets. So what's so cool about Gen Z? There's a concept called prefrontal cortex. I'm not a bio student, I don't understand it too well. But what I could understand personally was that this is the part of your brain that makes the executive decisions, like planning, like negotiation, like prioritizing, like thinking about something, pondering about something, executive decisions in your life. And this part of brain develops the most till a person is 16 or 17. The max they develop is still in their mid 20s, but you would see most of it has been developed till the person was in their teenage. So what this tells you is that even though this internet is available for all generations, the Gen Z is consuming this internet at a time when their prefrontal cortex is being developed. So they are the most impacted by it. They are the most impressionable audience that is making an opinion out of it. Now, you would all say, right, that how would I try to characterize the strengths of Gen Z? For me, if I had to talk about the strengths of Gen Z on a more holistic basis, their passion to create positive impact, their stance towards individuality with respect to inclusivity, their desire to achieve stability with efficiency, all combined with a sense of greater purpose, is their true strength. Now, I'll give you a small example, right? This is my house help, Gulesh. He's a part-time cook. He used to earn around 14,000 rupees a month on an average, where he used to go to 2, 3 houses every day, get some money out of that. He had ample time remaining, but for him to generate leads or to get more clients was tough. He's just 21 right now. As a Gen Z, he was very entrepreneurial. You know what he did? He realized that when he goes to buy groceries for his existing clients, there are a lot of potential clients out there who are looking to get the right cooks. So you know what he did? He printed 7 t-shirts in 7 different colors where he wrote part-time cook with his number. And today, I'll tell you, he has increased his wages. I'm paying more now. But I'm happy about it. He is currently earning more than 30,000 rupees a month, where earlier he was earning less than 15,000. And that is just to show to you that Gen Z is a generation that is all about hustle. That is all about building a positive future. That is, जिसमें शर्म नहीं है, very simply put, right? That is open about their ambition. And we should all support that. Now, everything that shines is not gold. There are certain problems with the Gen Z. Obviously, we understand, we want to look at them. And as I said, there were some perceptions about Gen Z. A lot of them are true. So let's talk about such, perceptions or traits of Gen Z which I believe are true. Number one, they're entitled. So guys, understand, right? They are coming from a socio-economic background. As a country, as an overall globe, the country has progressed. What their parents were facing, they are not facing a existential crisis. For them to get food on the table is not that big a deal as opposed to their parents. So they will automatically get a bit entitled. Number two, lack of patience. Now, if you order on Zepto or Blinkit, how will you get patience in life, right? Like, you understand what I'm saying, right? Like, the minute you start getting groceries, you are ordering on Zepto or Blinkit. Your parents had to go to a mandi, had to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, go in a train for 2 hours, get there, negotiate, then get on another train for 2 hours, come back. It was taking 5 hours. Now in 8 minutes, you're getting a whatever you want. So you will obviously have a lack of patience. Number three, impulsive behavior. I think that is something to do with the fact that they have more choices. They are not scared that much. And I'll give you a small example, right? Earlier, when anyone used to want to get a job, they used to go for walk-in interviews. They didn't know what will happen. How will I get my next job? Now it's LinkedIn simple. You just go there, you find million job postings, right? So there's an impulsive behavior because of more choices. And finally, a shorter attention span. As all of you said, you are consuming reels left, right, and center. Earlier, you were watching a 30-minute show on Doordarshan, which had 12 minutes of ad. Now you are looking at reels for 30 seconds. So obviously, your attention span will go down. So what is the solution? How do we solve this, right? Very simple. You look at this picture, right? This guy is Shantanu Naidu with Mr. Ratan Tata. I am sure all of you know Ratan Tata, and I think a lot of you would have seen this guy somewhere on your social media, right? Yes? He was Mr. Tata's assistant. Mr. Tata was his mentor. And now Mr. Tata has invested in a startup. What this tells you is that this generation requires the right support and guidance from the previous generations. There is no other way around it. Because the bad traits that I talked about, right, they're very bad. They're extremely detrimental. You need that support. You need that guidance from generations that have been there, done that. Now, obviously, from the previous generation's viewpoint, we require some level of, openness to experiment, to understand that this is a new generation, they are different. But if we combine their wisdom with our agility, then the world is for our taking. So now my last question, before I conclude, is that millennials and Gen Zs are very similar, right? They're very similar. They are both two sides of a coin. When millennials came, their parents thought the same about them. And they moved a step forward. And we are seeing the same thing, what millennials are doing for Gen Z now. So guys, my final question for you is, are we all prepared for a Gen Z takeover? Thank you. Thank you so much.